Well, hello and welcome to Math Blossoms, where growing in mathematics is natural. I am the teacher, Miss G, and for today's math topic, we're going to discuss how to find the volume of a cone. It would be helpful if you have not watched the volume video on cylinders, that you may want to watch that one first before watching the cone video. Let's get started. All right, so the volume of a cone is the measurement of the space inside of the cone. The unit for volume is cubed units, so it might be centimeters cubed, inches cubed, feet cubed, millimeters cubed, that kind of thing. And in real life, we see cones around us every day, such as the ice cream cone, one of my favorite cones. Birthday hats are usually cone shaped. Pine cones are cone shaped as well. That's where they get their name. And of course, traffic cones that we see on the side of the street are also cone shaped. When we're calculating the volume of a cone, we use a formula. Find the area of the base of the cone. The base of the cone is the circular part of the cone. And then multiply it times the height of the cone and divide it by 3. So as you can see, this cone here has a base that's a circle. This is the height, the one that's in the center, from the middle of the circle to the vertex, or the pointy part of the top of the cone there. We call that the vertex. So from the center of the circle to the vertex, that's the height. Now the slant height is this, the slanted part right here. And we're going to talk about how to calculate slant height more when we go into the Pythagorean theorem later on. But right now we're going to be working with just height and the radius, which is from the center of the circle to the, to the edge of the circle. Halfway across the circle basically is the radius. And our formula looks like this. And if you remember, the area of a circle is this part right here, the pi r squared. And so you're basically finding the area of that circle, multiplying it times the height, and then it says divide by 3, which is the same as multiplying times a third. Did you know that? Did you know that also multiplying times a half is the same as dividing by 2? If you did not, then I'm pointing that out for a reason, because not every calculator has a fraction button. So if you're trying to multiply something times a third, another way of doing it is just dividing it by 3, because it's the same thing, really. Now, the reason I've got the cylinder here and the cone is because I want you to see how close together these formulas are. Basically, the cone formula is identical to the cylinder formula, except for the 1/3 here. So if the cone and the cylinder have the exact same radius, then that cone will always be exactly 1/3 the size of the cylinder. The volume, the space that's inside of it, will be exactly 1/3 of the space that's in that cylinder, as long as their radius is the same on the cylinder and the cone. And that's a good relationship to understand between that. So like I could fill up that cone there 3 times, and it would take 3 of those cones to fill up that one cylinder. So when a cylinder and a cone have the same radius, the cone will exactly be 1/3 of the volume of the cylinder. Okay, so let's try some of these. Now, in the cylinder video, we talked about the different types of answers you can give. Approximate is when we use the 3.14, which is the approximate amount of pi. And in terms of pi is when we don't calculate it by multiplying times pi, and we just place the pi symbol next to everything else. So let's go ahead and try doing this first one. Let the formula guide you. So we're going here, I'll do green since that's a green cone. And we'll do volume equals 1/3 times pi. In this case, it's 3.14 times the radius squared. The radius in this case is a 9. So we're going to have 9 times 9, because that's what we get when we square something. We just multiply it times itself. Okay. And then times the height. And in this case, the height is 12. Okay. Now, again, you can put all of this in and then divide all of that by 3, or you could just multiply it times the fraction 1/3. Lucky for us, Desmos has a fraction button, so this makes it very easy to do. In fact, in Desmos, you can even type the V in if you would like. You could literally type the entire formula in there. You don't have to type the V in, but you can if you want to. So I'm just going to start with the 1/3. Now this is the fraction button here, the AB. And if you click on that, your cursor will go to the top number first. You just put the 1 in there, click on the bottom, and then put your 3, and then click times. Oops. And see what happened when you clicked times? It put the times symbol in the denominator. We don't want that. We don't want that. So be careful when you're entering fractions. Make sure you hit enter first. Whoops. Make sure you click, actually, because enter did not work. So click after you type your 3 in, click right next to it, get your cursor where it's supposed to go, then click the multiply, because you don't want that multiply symbol in the denominator. You want it just next to the fraction. Okay. So 1/3 times, and then we have the 3.14. Sorry, my cat's meowing. He's whiny. He's old. He's very spoiled though. Let's see, times 9 again, because we're squaring that radius of 9, and then times the height, which was 12. And all of that comes to 1017.36. If we rounded that to the nearest tenth, we would raise that 3 up to a 4 since the 6 is 5 or greater. So I'm going to write it as 1000. Whoops. We're going to assume they asked us to round it to the nearest tenth. And I'll go ahead and write it as 1017.4. And this is, there's no units on this green cone here. So we're just going to write units cubed, because volume is always cubic units. Now for our in terms of pi answer, we do not do the pi part. So all of this part we do not do, but we do everything else. So what you're doing is 9 times 9 times 12 times 1/3. And if you take your Desmos calculator and you just take out the pi part, you will get the answer 324. And so you're going to write that answer 324 next to the pi symbol, because we did not multiply it times pi yet. So that stands for 324 times pi. And again, it's units cubed. All right, that takes care of the first example. Now let's go ahead and see what the second one's going to give us. Oops, did not mean to do that. Okay, we're going to erase. Let's erase everything. Okay, now we have this golden cone over here, and we're going to switch to a different color. Let's use this dark blue here. Why not? Okay, so volume equals 1/3. And again, multiplying times 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3. So if you're using a calculator that, unlike Desmos, if you're using a calculator that doesn't have the fraction button, just do all of this and then at the end divide it by 3. Okay, and you'll still get the same answer. Now, our radius on this one is a 5 this time. So we're going to do times pi, and this time we're going to do the approximate value of pi, which is 3.14. And our radius here is 5, and our height is 12. So 5 squared means that we're going to multiply 5 times 5. And then times the height, which is 12. Okay, so all of this should give us our approximate value of the volume of the gold cone over here. So let's type it in. And this time I'll put the V in just to show you that if you put the V in, you'll still get the right answer. You don't have to though, it's just there. All right, so our fraction, again, it's going to start you at the top. We're going to put the 1 in, click on the bottom, put the 3 in, click just next to it, get your cursor in the right spot, and then do that multiplication symbol. Then type in your 3.14 for pi. Then type in your radius, which is 5, times another radius, which is another 5, times the height, which is 12. All of that comes to 314. That's a coincidence. 314. So let's write that down as our approximate. We didn't have to round that at all. 314, approximately 314 centimeters cubed. Okay. And then of course, to get our in terms of pi answer, remember we're saving our pi for last, which means we're not going to multiply it times the pi part. We're saving that for last. So we're going to take out this pi part. So I just highlighted it and then click my delete button and it goes away. And I end up with 100. So 100 times pi is our answer in terms of pi for this cone. All right. Now, some things to look out for. We talked about this in the cylinder video, but look out for the radius versus the diameter. The diameter goes all the way across the base. That's a circle. But the radius is only halfway. And since the radius is what we use to calculate the volume in the formula, we want to make sure we're using that radius and not the diameter. So you might come up with a problem like this where they're giving you the distance all the way across. All the way across is not your radius. That's your diameter. So if your diameter, let's change this to green since we're using another green. Okay, so if your diameter is divided by 2, it will equal the radius. So we're just basically splitting that diameter in half to get that radius number, okay? And in this case, it's 12. So 12 is the diameter. We're going to divide it by 2, and we will get 6. So 6 is our radius. Okay, now we're going to write the formula down for the cone again, which is volume equals 1/3 times pi, and this time we're going to use 3.14 times the radius squared, and that would be 6 times 6 times the height, which is 9 in this case. I'll write the formula up here just so we'll have the actual formula listed right above it. Again, let the formula guide you. They will give you the formula on the tests and exams, and your job is just to know how to use it. So just fill in the numbers where they go, do all of your multiplication, and you should get the right answer. Okay, so when I plug this into my Desmos, let me clear out my Desmos. All right, so volume equals, so we're going to do 1/3. Again, type in the 1, click here on the bottom, type in the 3, click next to it, click your multiply, click your 3.14, click another multiply, click 6, another multiply, click another 6, another multiply, and click 9, and we end up with 339.12. If I round this to the nearest tenth, that 1 is going to stay a 1 because the 2 is not a number 5 or greater. So 339.1 is what I'm going to write as the approximate answer to the volume of this green cone. And of course, this is centimeters also, so we're going to do centimeters cubed. Okay, and remember, to find the answer in terms of pi, we simply take pi out. We do not multiply it times pi. We save that pi for last. We end up with 108. So I'm going to put 108 down here. Times pi centimeters cubed. And that's all there is to it. Things to look out for besides diameter is when you're using the pi button instead of 3.14 on your Desmos calculator, you will get an answer that's close, but it will not be exactly the same. Let me give you an example. Okay, this is the last one we did, that last green, that green cone that we did. So this is what we originally got, 339.12. And this time we used 3.14 in place of pi. So let's see how this number is going to change, okay, when we, hit the pi button. 339.29. Okay, that rounds up to 339.3, and originally we got 339.1. So again, we're getting a close answer. It's an approximate answer, but it's just not exactly the same as what you would get when you use your 3.14. So just know that the pi button is there. If you use that pi button to do your calculations and your number is not exactly in the multiple choice, it may be because they may be using the pi approximation, which is 3.14 instead of pi, the pi button. So just know that you'll get close answers. So try using 3.14 all the time for your tests and exams, because the state exam will ask you to use 3.14 instead of the pi button. But if if you're in a hurry and you just want to click on that pi button to just get a roundabout answer, so you can figure out where on the multiple choice it is, that also does work. It'll just be close to the other one, the other answer. Okay, so great job, y'all. Remember that when calculating the volume of a cone, we use the formula 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. It's basically the cylinder formula with a 1/3 in front of it. Remember that multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3. And also remember to use 3.14 or the pi button. The answers will both be approximate and very close to each other. Remember to use the radius of the cone to calculate the volume, not the diameter, and divide the diameter by 2 in order to find the radius. And that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. So, now it's time for me to say, it was lovely teaching you math today. See you next time. I think.